All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the PM sessions brought to you by a breath of fresh footy. Remember to subscribe on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up for this video when it's linked on YouTube. And also, we are on Facebook. So another thumbs up if you can join the page. The more people we have viewing it, the better it is. And we can continue to give you more and more information. The PM sessions is always awesome because it's with my good friend Phil, who is the co-host and founder of A Breath of Fresh Footy. And we are going to go through game week 4 because we just needed time to actually think about what happened over the weekend. It was the absolutely most insane weekend of EPL football I've ever seen. Probably the best I've seen in my 30 years of living thus far. So it was just really, really exciting. And, you know, bearer of fitness, Phil, you're looking fabulous, mate. Welcome to the PM sessions. Fit as a fiddle. Great, Mo. Let me know your thoughts about game week 4.
Well, first of all, if you're wondering if you're going to get inspired by the crowdless season, then look no further than the Premier League because it's absolutely all happening. And I just think a few too many of the players and coaches have been watching the Carabao Cup because I've never seen that many unexpected results, goals, just incredible stuff. A great, fabulous few days.
Absolutely. And I feel, you know, as we were talking about, and I've talked to a lot of people about this on the podcast, the depth of squad really showcases how you're going to go this season. And a few of these results, I feel, is because a lot of teams have had a backlog of games that they're playing with. And we can talk about one in particular later on, Tottenham, and how they're absolutely thriving with this sort of thing. But most teams would really struggle because some players are just absolutely buggered with the amount of games that they're playing. So we should go into further detail. We'll go through the match week 4 results and, you know, shout out, Phil, for any games that you watched in particular and want to give feedback on. So the first game that happened over last weekend was Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. I watched this game. It was 4-0, extremely comfortable. It just looked like a stroll in the park. I mean, Crystal Palace has actually played some pretty decent footy this season, but Chelsea just strolled around like it was a training drill, and they really deserved that 4-0. And I was just like watching it going, oh, this is just training drill. So I was like, okay, so this is a great way to start the week. Expected result, 4-0, Chelsea bringing it up, you know. Good job. And, of course, the next game was Everton and Brighton. Even though Everton won 4-2 and they won quite comfortably in this game, I think Brighton's done bloody well to kick 2 goals against this Everton team. They are really, really good. They played a really good game against Man United, and 4-2 is very respectable, I think, you know, even though Everton is so strong.
I'm loving this new Everton under Ancelotti and the second breath of life for James. He's just an absolute class player. Every touch he makes on the ball, he's hungry. He's running around the pitch like a madman. And who's the fellow that keeps scoring? He got 3 in this match. Richarlison got injured, which I hope isn't something that Calvert-Lewin, excuse me.
Calvert-Lewin, yeah.
Yeah, just having I don't know. I think the service to him has been really good. They're comparing him to someone like Kane. But Kane also makes a lot of goals. In fact, Kane's making a lot of goals for Son at the moment. So yeah. Richarlison's off injured. I can only hope that that's not really serious. When Son went off for Tottenham a couple of matches ago, I really thought the worst, but obviously he's fine.
Yeah, came back with a bang. But I mean, look, I'm quite impressed with how Brighton started off the year. They've started pretty brightly. And I thought they were going to be in relegation form. How wrong are they proving me at the moment? They're doing a very good job. But Everton, classy, deserve to be top of the ladder. The next game that I saw, I watched a lot of this game as well, Phil. I'm sure that you took a lot of notes, is the Leeds versus Man City. And I thought this was like, at the time, wow, an excellent result, something that I thought wasn't going to happen. What did you think? 1-1?
I was shocked. I know that Guardiola's a huge Bielsa disciple and fan. In fact, he went to consult with him before he took his job at Barcelona. So this is the esteem he's held. He's sort of transformed Argentinian football, really. This match, Man City started exactly the way you'd expect. They had 105% possession. They didn't do anything with it much until Sterling scored. Leeds looked like a championship side, struggling to find their feet, couldn't make a pass stick. In fact, they gave away the ball pointlessly twice before Raheem took the ball, and it was a beautiful, typical sort of Raheem goal. But all of a sudden, that sort of it's sort of swagger that you get with Man City sometimes. De Bruyne was puffing his chest out. Kyle Walker, it's like they were kind of enjoying dominating just a bit too much. And then Leeds sort of slowly started to turn things up, a few chances here and there. Who do you think stood out from that game, Matty?
Oh, I really enjoyed like Sterling and De Bruyne. I thought he looked really good. In that first 30 minutes, it was probably the best Manchester City football I'd seen all season, just because it had a bit more flair to it. It also had a bit more movement. You know, there wasn't trying to be all ticky-taka. There was a little bit more creativity from what I saw. So I actually thought they were going to score 2 or 3. But to Leeds' credit, they held on really well. And as you said, what they did was they ground them down, brought them to their level a bit more, and that's where they really pounced and kicked the goal. And they totally deserved it. And I thought Man City was going to give a bit more of a yelp, but they didn't. And it proves to me, again, it's because their squad, they have quite a few people out at the moment, either injured or suffering from COVID, and the depth of the squad is being challenged, even for a rich club, because you need to play with those players a lot of the time. And of course, with Man City, they haven't had, in my opinion, huge amount of injuries over the last 6 or 7 years. Sure, they've had one person out here or there, but they've always kept that nucleus.
Company every weekend.
Yeah.
But in this game, you're right. They really missed having Aguero or Jesus. In fact, even with those two, it's like against a championship side, they need a big, tall, strong number 9 up front.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives room for Mahrez and Sterling to do their magic, a bit like Firmino does in Liverpool. Without that, they sort of ran out of ideas. Let's talk about, and you hate to single out players, but Mendy at left back. I mean, that was all his fault. He had a couple of horrible touches. He doesn't look like the Mendy that plays at Real Madrid. And it was really a shocking job by him. Bielsa pulled a masterstroke bringing this Pervader on.
Yeah.
And by this stage, it was really looking like English football from the 80s again. The ball was going up and back.
Yeah.
Players actually looked tired after this match instead of like what normally they sort of ponce around a bit. They were absolutely shattered. These are international standard players that just couldn't keep running. And bring on Pervader was perfect for that because he just sort of he dribbled, he flicked it up, he tried all sorts of things. He won a few fouls. I mean, he came on against Mendy. and they really deserved their goal. City was still pushing at the end though, champions. And De Bruyne, you know, they had Yaya Toure before as kind of a leader from the middle of the park. De Bruyne's trying to be all that. At one point, he took the ball from before the halfway, went all the way to the opposite goal and won a corner kick. You know, captain sort of knock on Gerrard. But they just didn't have enough and they were worn down.
Absolutely, but that's what I like to see with De Bruyne. And the one thing that I'm seeing with City, maybe they're not playing their best footy at the moment, but they're not getting, like even though Everton did beat them quite handsomely, I thought they did okay against Leeds considering. I'm glad that they didn't just capitulate, they kept going to the end. But I mean, the problem is when your backline or your defenders let you down like that, and we saw much of this over the weekend. I mean, don't get me started on the next games we're going to talk about, but Mendy set the trend for the weekend, didn't he, with that performance? I mean, you cannot make those sort of errors during a game. And the thing is, I feel like these sort of players, they really need the crowd behind them because they need to hear the booing, they need to hear the cheering, because otherwise it becomes too much of a training drill, you know?
I think you're onto something there, and I think this artificial crowd stuff really played to Leeds because normally if you play that poorly in the first 30 minutes, the crowd get on your back or your support dips off and then the other team sense it and they get a huge lift. Whereas, Calvin Phillips had a pretty poor first bit. Bamford actually looked good the whole match. He's surprising me.
Yes.
He's slow, but he's they just sort of seem to grow in confidence. And I think behind closed doors, it's easier to do that, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing. So I think Leeds played really well, but also credit to Man City. At least they didn't lose. And I think getting any sort of points during this season, points, whether it's 1 or it's 3, they're all really important because as we go further down, the surprise results come in. And boy, the 4th of October, my birthday, was on absolute fire. I mean, Newcastle versus Burnley. Newcastle played reasonably well, saw the highlights, 3-1, looked like a pretty comfortable win. And this is where it starts getting real interesting. Leicester 0, West Ham 3. This is where it starts getting real, I didn't watch much of this game at all, but I know Leicester has a very good record at King Power. And for West Ham to go there and win 3-0, that is an absolutely phenomenal result. So that really kick-fired some things. And then, of course, I was watching a little bit of the Southampton game. They won 2-0 against West Brom. I watched the second half, looked very chilled. Southampton had the midfield pressure and they were able to get those goals and they caused defensive errors because the midfield was actually pressing quite high up and they kicked those 2 goals and it was really good. Then we get to the Arsenal versus Sheffield United. Everybody was saying Sheffield United hasn't had a great start to the season and they haven't. But the 3 games that we played against them last year, they were very close games. We drew with them once, we lost to them once, and then we beat them in the FA Cup. So I was expecting this game to be tight. And boy, oh boy, it was the most boring first half of footy I have seen in a very, very long time. No creativity, very, very structured. It was like basically 2 teams standing off, right, in that first half. And I was just very glad that they had no shots on target because if they had, we were in such a rut that they probably would have kicked 2 or 3 against us. But we held our defence, and this is the difference. In a normal Arsenal team in the last 6 years, if we were playing like that, we probably would have had 3 kicked against us. So that was very reassuring. At least we're sort of starting to get our defence a bit stronger. Then the second half comes along, much of the same story, until Pepe comes on. And boy, oh boy, Pepe comes on, brings a bit of creativity, a bit of dribbling, and a bit of class, and 2 goals come within 4.5 minutes. And
by the way, I need to point out something. Your best friend, Bellerin, who you keep slagging off as being terrible, he provided the cross for Sake for the first goal. Excellent cross. And he also was involved somehow, I forget, maybe he made the pass to Pepe for the second goal.
Yeah, why didn't he do that against Liverpool? Turns up in one game and goes missing. But I will say this, credit where credit's due. I was just about to say Uncle Bellerin had an excellent game. And but I really think it was that energy that Pepe brought onto the field. Finally, for the first time, the right-hand side clicked, and it was really, really exciting. However, I must say Sheffield United's goal, that was probably pretty darn close to goal of the week. That was a phenomenal kick. I mean, we weren't that poor defensively with that. That was just a phenomenal piece of footy. We had the structure there. I've watched it over and over. It's like, what have we done wrong defensively? Really couldn't fold it. It was just a great kick. And then that's where the issue comes. Because we've been slammed for so many years in the defence, they decided to flood it and put 5 at the back. I tell you, we can't afford to do that against these sort of teams. We should be playing a 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3 formation. And now because Partey has come to Arsenal, finally my dream has come where I think we will have a 4-3-3 formation, because I tell you what, we can't afford to be playing a 3-5-2 formation against these teams. And we looked really sus. However, at least we hung on and it was a 2-1 victory. So that was
my... I need to point out that it's been a long time since I really followed Arsenal. But the fact that a victory over Sheffield United is hard won and cause for such a huge celebration. If you saw Arteta's face at the end, it's like they won the World Cup. It's Sheffield United. In the day, Arsenal would have fielded a second string team and tried out all kinds of crazy crap against these guys. But Arteta's he's a born businessman. He's a cup game winner, and so I hope there's more to come from Arsenal. Maitland-Niles was kind of not great again, I must say. But the addition of Partey, let's see.
We'll see. But, I mean, it's a great start to the season. I mean, we've only lost to Liverpool at home, at their home. And I didn't think that was – I thought they should have battered us a lot more, but we stayed in the game until the 88th minute. It's good. I mean, you got to start from somewhere. And in this sort of season, any sort of win is a great win at the moment. As we continue to go down, oh, man, this is where it gets real funky. So, Wolves really struggled against Fulham. Very, very fortunate to get that one goal, but they won. Round a win. That's what they needed. And Fulham, they're really looking very sus. You're not getting any sort of points at the moment. That's not a good sign at all. But what about this result? You go to Old Trafford, right? And in the first minute of the game, Fernandez gets a penalty and slots it in. And then the scoreline turns 1-6 after 90 minutes against the Spurs. What an absolute joke of a performance by United. I mean, Tottenham, they were great. They were good. They're not a 6-1 team, though. I'm sorry. They're just not. That's not a 6-1 team.
If you told me after the first time I saw Chelsea play under Mourinho that they would ever beat another team by 6-1, I would just say you're dreaming. So I'm not sure if it was Mourinho's victory. I think this was the players of Tottenham. Kane was absolutely phenomenal again. Son was phenomenal. They played it out from the middle of the park beautifully. And the thing about Tottenham is, they can put on these performances where they look so slick that they should be in the Champions League, and they have been. Whereas United in the past years, I haven't really, even when they win, it's not that kind of organic, fluid football where it looks like they're doing it easy. It's very un-PlayStation-ish. And Maguire, I mean, this wasn't his finest hour, I'm afraid. I'm sure he doesn't care at all, but that's also the problem. A lot of old timers, they look back on modern football and they say, they talk about character and who the leader is. And modern football pundits don't do that as much because it's all about statistics, how many passes you made and all this sort of crap. Well, who is the leader at United? That's who says, all right, we're not going to lose by more than this today. Give me the ball and we're just going to play keep ball for the rest of the match. It's 4-1. This is humiliating. We owe it to our fans. And Pogba's not that guy. And United can't keep the ball because they don't know where each other's moving on the pitch. I don't see a system.
But this is the thing. You name a really, really good point here. Who can you rely on in that team? There are two players, in my opinion, that you can rely on in the United team, and that's it. Fernandez, because at least when he gets a penalty, he'll kick it and he'll try really hard. So I can rely on him as a footy player. People give De Gea a lot of crap, but actually I think he's quite a good keeper. But nobody in the back line is helping him out whatsoever. He can't even decide what to go for and what not to go for because he doesn't know what his defenders are going to do. I mean, if Maguire's going to headbutt a ball that far, I tell you what, I kick a ball into my 75-year-old mother's head, that ball ain't going that small distance. It's going to go to the keeper. But how do you get away with that absolute tripe? I mean,
what's stuck in his hand and midfield. I mean, where is the midfield? Where is that? When you think of a Barcelona, Xavi or someone like that, or the Xavi that played for Liverpool, or even Winks for Tottenham and Ndombele, these guys, they can get on the ball, hold the ball forever. They know what's going on around them. The United midfield, Pogba, he just looks like a show pony. And he's a great player. I mean, he's won a World Cup. How can you criticise that, right? But this is a different league. And maybe it's an aberrant result. You know, maybe they'll pull their heads in, but I wouldn't be surprised if Gunnar Solskjaer, one of my favourite players, by the way, I don't know if he'll be sticking around for too much longer, huh?
Well, you know, if you're playing that poorly, you've got to do what somebody like Arteta's done. Sure, we're not playing the most brilliant football, but you've got to have structure with it. And then when you have a foundation and you get more confident and you breed more winning results, then you can go a bit more expansive. You know, Pogba, he's not a sort of person I see. He had to play on the left, and I want your thoughts on the red card issue and this and that a little bit later. But you can't put him on left wing and expect him to do stuff because he doesn't defend. You can't play him and Fernandes in the same team. They're two similar players. You can't have those people in the midfield, you know.
You need a water carrier. You need a Didier Deschamps, someone that lets the ego back right off, but still commands. They don't have it.
Henderson would be phenomenal in that midfield. You know what I mean? Like, he'd just go in hard. At least he would try. He would try and bully some people, you know, from Liverpool. I mean, they've got nobody. It's like watching paint dry. It's the most awful footy ever. But I mean, seriously, that decision, though, with the red cards, surely you either give both players a yellow and keep them on the ground, or you give both of them a red. I mean, it was just stupid. Both had face contact. Martial, I think, deserved to have a red card because he touched the face. But the other guy should have touched his face. If he touched the face, just like what Martial did, should have been sent off. Do you know what I mean? You have to do the same decision for both those people.
There's the rules of the game, and then there's common sense. And anyone can see that these were not really, there's intention or there's not intention. Yeah. And this little slappy face thing, I mean, it's just bullshit, sorry. Yeah. And then they fall down, and it's bad sportsmanship, that's for sure. But there's got to be a certain amount of aggro in a football match, I reckon. And if you go in and try and break someone's leg, then I think this should be a red card. But if you, a little tap on the face, little hello, little let them know they're there with the elbow, come on. No, it's not a red card.
Well, who was the Tottenham player that did that? I forgot his name. What was his name?
I can't even remember the incident.
I can't remember it. But obviously, the documentary that I watched, bear with me, I don't like it very much with Tottenham. I think it's rubbish. But, what he wanted them to do was get into the mindset of the opposition. This guy's killed it. He's got into Martial's head, and Martial has overreacted. And he's just completely slammed in that game. Do you know what I mean? It's all a mental thing. And I mean, this is the thing, though. When you're refereeing, and if you're going to give a red card to that person, and the other person's done a similar thing, you have to give it. They should have been either 11-11 or 10-10. That's my opinion. Both should have been reprimanded in some way, and the game goes on. But that completely broke that game, because at least in that game with United, and this is what we've been criticising a lot, sure, their defence was poor, but I really enjoyed actually watching the end-to-end footy. I thought it was fine for the first 30 minutes. There was actually some end-to-end movement, and it was really exciting. I was like, I'm going to really enjoy this game. And that completely destroyed it. But having said that, if that was a Roy Keane and Cantona, could you imagine? There was a picture of Maguire, right, in the press with him speaking to the umpire. He didn't even contact them. And there was this picture of Cantona and the whole team when he got a red card. Whole team's just screaming at the ref going, what the hell are you doing? You've got to show some backbone as a captain. And that was utterly pathetic.
Well, hang on. He's had a run-in with the police recently on holiday, right?
Yeah.
So maybe he's a bit more wary of authority. In fact, I sometimes wonder if we're a little bit unfair on these players. When something like it happens, so, for example, I think he thought that they were trying to poison his sister or drug her at some party. At first, you go into hyper mode and you get back into your football, but eventually that whole incident's going to catch up with you. So if we're being kind, we say the incident has just caught up with him now.
Yeah, I'm happy for that to happen. But surely Solskjaer has to take responsibility. He shouldn't be playing him. If he's not playing good enough footy, then don't play him.
I mean, they're crying about not getting Sancho. and they've got Cavani, which they've got a bit of a history of doing this. They got in Henrik Larsson when they thought they wouldn't win. Excellent player, complete professional, a bit younger, but he was kind of old then. And then one year, who else did they go in? They got in some other player. Ibrahimovic, which came in for a while. Not the most mobile, but still that kind of commanding presence and complete winning mentality. I think Cavani could be that for them, but who's going to pass him the ball? Who knows how to? I mean, Martial doesn't know how to make a goal. He goes himself and trips over and gets penalties. That's his thing. But yeah, maybe Mata, if they can put Mata on the pitch with him, that could be something.
Terrible transfer, and for a big club like that to not fill in the gaps that they need in midfield and defence and then panic buy like this, utterly shameful. No wonder why their fans are up in arms. I mean, like, Tellez will be a great signing. I have every confidence he'll be a great signing. Why do they need somebody like Donny van der Beek? Why do they need Cavani? I'm sorry. You need to fix your spine of your club. And they have a woeful midfield at the moment. And I mean, look, if we're going to go that way with Maguire, I feel sorry for Pogba because he's gone through COVID. He's probably not 100%. He hasn't had the training that he needs. And he needs to be dropped and somebody needs to come in. But because they have absolutely no depth in their squad, they panic buy all the time. They buy 33-year-olds who are about to finish their career, or they do something just out of the ordinary just to try and please their fans because their board have no idea what they're doing. They're all bankers. They don't even know how to play footy. And Woodward is the biggest useless hack of a person running that department. I mean, they've basically signed Ole to his death warrant. Do you know what I mean? They've signed him there because he wanted three specific players, including Sancho. Didn't get anybody that he wanted in his top three, and they've given him this stuff. I mean,
so look at it this way. You're Gunnar Solskjaer, your position, you came in as an interim manager and you were kind of lucky they started playing better. They're good players. So over a course of the season, some of the Man United players are going to perform because they're excellent individuals. So you'll get results that way. Then results start not going your way. He doesn't feel confident enough to really chew out the board and the owners. He's not a Ferguson who can say, listen, it's either you or me. You go or I go. I need these players. You've got to get them. You've got to spend. He doesn't have that kind of clout. So he's nervous. And maybe that's reflected in that horrible scoreline.
It's just woeful, though, you know. And every supporter for Man United should feel very peeved off. They deserve a lot more with that. You know, sure, you don't earn the right to be a top team, but given what they've done and what they created over 25 years, for it to have fallen away in 6 or 7 years like this is an absolute disgrace. And when you see what Arsenal and Liverpool went through for so many years, you would try to avoid doing what those good teams did. You know what I mean? You would try to avoid it, you know? And, you know, finally, you know, I'm an Arsenal fan. I do like my Man City, but I'm definitely through and through Arsenal. For once, we actually started filling our gaps. And for once, our supporters actually feel like something's happening. And we don't like our head or our top honcho. But even he's pulled out £75 million out of his own money to make sure that we got Partey to fill that spot. If you're going to do that with a team, with a
when you dish out money, they have to win sometimes. I mean, that's what the people with the money think of it, regardless of the kind of football. So Arsenal are winning ugly for my taste, if you don't mind me saying. And Man United need to learn how to win ugly or lose gracefully. I'd be very interested to see the return fixtures in the second half of the season between these clubs. I don't think it'll be the same set of results.
No, I'm very, very intrigued. And then, of course, the final game. This was outrageous. This game, I really enjoyed watching this. This 7-2 was crazy. But, I mean, also, we have to put in perspective, those 3 deflections, holy moly, there was no chance the keeper was getting to those either. So, but it just shows you, and a couple of pundits actually said this very, very, you know, clearly. I really like listening to Craig Burley, even though a lot of people give him a lot of stick, and Patrice Evra. The problem is you can't be arrogant in this league, because if you come into a game arrogant, like what I think Liverpool did, strutting their way, not really communicating. Van Dijk was a lot to blame with certain things, not communicating with his backline and stuff.
No.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the pundits were saying. And I thought, you know what it's like with Van Dijk, though? When he's on fire, man, he's screaming stuff down there, right? Screaming things down there. But he was just so gentle. And all of them were like, oh, look at us, we're champions.
No. I don't agree. No. I think in my notes, what I wrote was Gomez kept giving the ball away all the time. He had a shocker at the back. That guy can sometimes play. That you can't blame Van Dijk for that. He was passing the ball away left, right, and centre. And Firmino, one of my favourite players, I was just singing his praises in the last broadcast we made. His touch was off. Like at one point, he came from the halfway to trap a ball in his chest, and it went almost as far as when I try and do that. It went into his grandmother's backyard, and I think they actually scored from that as well.
Yeah, they did.
They were awful. The only player that sort of escapes any kind of blame is Salah, because his job is to score goals. Mm-hmm. And 2 chances, or maybe 3, 2 goals, beautifully taken. I think he scored twice, right?
Yeah, scored twice, 3 chances, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, just absolutely clinical, completely professional. I don't know. I think I saw Klopp laughing as they went down 3-1, 4-1. He was like smiling, and I thought, oh boy. And they decided to keep pressing. So what did this game show? This game showed that, first of all, Barkley, good signing. Always thought he was the wrong fit for Chelsea, but he really showed himself. Grealish should be playing for, you see English? I don't know. He should be playing for England. Yes, he's an old school footballer.
Yeah, he's right.
He reminds me of Totti a bit. He doesn't have the most pace, but he's got brains, balance, and strength.
Yeah.
And Minamino, poor old Minamino, he looks a couple of steps off the pace for Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, also with Aston Villa, what they can take to heart is I think Martinez has been the best signing for them as a goalkeeper. £20 million, that guy is absolutely world class. And I mean, the only reason why Salah scored was because they were just absolutely quality goals. Nothing you could do about it. But I thought he had an excellent game, and he brings a lot of stability to that team in the back line. A lot of stability. And that's why they can be confident when they go forward, and they kicked 7 goals. I think it was really, 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 really impressive game. However, I'm going to disagree with you with the Liverpool thing. The reason why I think they're arrogant is that they kept playing this high line. And sometimes in games like this, you just have to concede that it's not your day.
But hang on. Go back. When you say they're arrogant, do you mean Klopp's arrogant? Or they're arrogant? Because they don't decide whether to play a high line or not. That's the coach's
you made the decision as a player to go, this is not working, let's just go backwards a little bit further. You know what I mean?
I'd love to see a graph of when it stopped being players' decision and started being completely the coach's discretion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I mean, I can sort of see what you're saying. Watkins, by the way, for Aston Villa, couple of goals. He played phenomenally. And you're sort of right. Not only did Liverpool play badly, okay, you're going to call it arrogance. I'm going to say they just looked not themselves, like a couple of key players along the spine, and they really miss Henderson. Henderson's the type of keen player who, when it got to 3-1, would have just said, okay, fellas, if this isn't going to be our day, we are going to slow it right down, keep the ball, and we're going to work hard and grind it out. Whereas without him in the middle, and my mate Wijnaldum also didn't have the best game, they just kept they thought they could win it, which in a way is great. I love that. Don't forget, they scored twice. So,
I'm not happy.
As an attacking unit, when you score twice, you don't go back to the locker room and say it was our fault. And of course, Mane. I mean, if you ever underestimated his influence on a match, I mean, they were talking about in the pundits, he gets back, he tackles, he intercepts way more than any other of the forwards. He makes good passes. He has a touch of arrogance. I think they need more arrogance, actually. They need more swagger. I thought this was a bit tame.
I think, my thoughts with this game is that I think this is a one-off, but I don't think the Manchester United game is a one-off. You can't be at home and have 9 goals scored against you by Tottenham and by Crystal Palace. Look, I don't think Tottenham will win the league. They could make top 4, but they're on the bottom of the top 6. Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest. They're the bottom of the top 6. You cannot be giving 6 goals away in a game. You cannot be giving 3 goals away in a game to Crystal Palace. If that's not the players throwing the coach under the bus either, I don't know what it is. Sort of happened with Jose Mourinho as well with them. They didn't like it and they gave up. At least with this Liverpool game, there are reasons why stuff happened. Do you know what I mean? There are reasons. They got it tactically wrong, I think, by playing too high. They had Mane missing, big loss, and a few of their players were a bit off. You can understand this, you know.
I mean, I agree with that, but also let's look at it, like you said. How many deflections were there for these goals? Yeah. So this is also killing your spirit. And there's another thing as well. If you're a coach and you see a deflected goal, which was pretty well defended, you also think, well, they don't deserve to be beating us. They haven't outplayed us. So we're just going to keep pushing forward, and I'm going to give Minamino as much chance as I can to let the guy score. But then all of a sudden, Firmino's touch is off. Maybe Firmino's touch was off because Minamino wasn't playing off for him correctly. Maybe because the midfield wasn't moving. Yep. I don't remember Fabinho having such a great game, but it wasn't that bad either. I think it was a one-off sort of post-rushed week, Carabao Cups and everything all squashed together.
I'm going to say
they got infected by that spirit.
I'm going to say this, Bill, and I've written this on comments on a lot of EPL forums. I think Arsenal did a bloody good job against Liverpool, and I think they tired them out in those 2 games that we played against them because a lot of those players had to play 3 games. I think we did a phenomenal job tiring them out. It's, you know, because I don't think we're easy to beat anymore.
That's a key phrase. Arsenal is not going to be easy to beat this season, whether they win or not. But they look pretty solid at the back for once.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And sure, it might not be the most exciting footy, but for me, when I see those pockets with Pepe and now with this transfer thing, I'm excited. I hope, and you hope, that our games get more exciting. But I will say this, those 2 games were high-pressure games. And I tell you what, with the Sheffield United game, and this is where I drew the comparison, we were buggered. At the 80th minute when they scored their goal, we held on for that 2-1 victory. We were dog-tired because Liverpool played really well against us, and no wonder why they were buggered. And I really give Arsenal credit for playing 2 really tough games in the week where they played 3 games within 8 days. No wonder why everybody was so tired, you know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. But for me, the Liverpool game, the one thing that's different compared to the Man United game, they kicked goals in play of footy. It wasn't a penalty. You know what I mean? They were actual goals with really good bits of footy, and I think they'll come back. And I think Henderson, I think you really nailed this point with our Facebook chat. He is a huge difference with that team, and they cannot get him quickly enough back into that midfield to give some sort of stability.
So if I take your earlier point, okay, so you called it arrogance. That's fine. I've been thinking about that. So if you could call it arrogance, but another way of saying that might be they look relaxed. They look like they know what they're doing. They never look panicked. Henderson always looks panicked. Henderson always looked like he's trying hard. And he's the guy that maybe lifts the others to try 5% harder or panic or rush or whatever it is. It was just a bizarre game. It was a bizarre weekend. I think you're right. It's just fatigue from all of these matches. I think also without the support of the crowd behind them, the adrenaline has maybe been going up and down. Let's see what happens after the international break.
Yeah. But I think, you know, honestly, teams like Everton, Arsenal, even the Spurs to an extent, because now their new stadium, it's not as loud as, let's say, White Hart Lane was.
Yeah.
We're used to softer places. It's going to work better for these teams. Whereas Liverpool, Man United, all these teams that have really big stadiums but are on top of each other, and it's just so loud, geez, they're missing their crowds. They're missing their crowds so much. Gives them a lot of inspiration. It probably gives them 8 games in a year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
that adrenaline from the crowd, which our other teams don't, have.
I think I was watching this series of pretty second-rate documentaries, if I must say, on teams that have won the World Cup. And what's notable is these players, 40 years later, like the German team, when they played against Argentina in Italy, in Italia 90, that a lot of the stadium were sort of cheering Maradona. And they still remember who was kind of booing them more and who was cheering for them more. I think in the final, 90% of the spectators were German, so they felt quite lifted by that. But in other games, that's what they remember, as much as they remember all the plays and all the results. It's hard for us to understand because the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of was a fat friend of mine who came to watch. That's about it. Yeah, must be quite something.
But it's like for us when we're playing in orchestra, when we're musicians and we play for a big crowd and we play for nobody. The feeling is so different. The energy's not there. The performance really suffers because of that. It can be really amazingly technical, but it loses its spirit. And that's where those really sensational performances, what you do in music, when you're playing to a big crowd who are just really into it, you can feel that energy. I mean, it's the exact same feeling. But these teams that are doing well at the moment, Arsenal, for instance, I know they probably used to playing to non-crowds because the Emirates is so quiet. And they've proven it. They've won a trophy in a COVID time. Do you know what I mean? They know how to play this. That's why if this season is not going to have a crowd, I actually think we're going to do really well because we're used to that sort of atmosphere, unfortunately. And
quite a lot of psychology involved. Some players, you talked before, sometimes I play better when there's hardly anyone in an audience. Just sometimes I want that big crowd that gives me the feeling of communication. Sometimes I appreciate the fact there aren't many there. It's more intimate. You play differently. You feel a kind of freedom. So I'd say Arsenal are benefiting, like you said, and maybe even Leeds are benefiting from not being the new teams. The smaller teams are benefiting from not feeling so overwhelmed, whereas the big teams are really missing it. So. Let's see. When do you think they'll go back to having crowds?
They don't reckon they will this year. This is what's happened because they were supposed to go back like this month at the end of the month, but of course the second wave is so bad over there at the moment.
Is it?
The earliest is going to be March or April, and by then that's nearly the end of the season, so they might as well just do the whole season. So that's what the FA is saying, and this is where it's going to be really, really interesting. So. The game week 5 coming up. There's a couple of absolute corkers. The first game of that weekend is Everton and Liverpool at Goodison Park. Holy moly, that is going to be an absolute cracker. And if I was a betting man, I reckon Everton is going to win that 2-1, 3-1. Given what they're doing at the moment, I reckon Hammers really could cause some trouble if Henderson's not in that team. You know what I mean?
Hammers has to play some World Cup qualifiers. And in World Cup qualifiers, players get injured, especially in South America. I don't know if that's true, but it seems like it might be because they play like crazy. When you play against Bolivia, they just don't care at all. Colombia are a bit the same. So I hope he comes back fit. That's all I'm saying. And fresh.
I can't wait to see that game. That is one I will definitely see. If we do a watch along, if I get a couple of people for a watch along, you're joining me. We're going to have 4 or 5 people. We're going to watch that game. That's a 10:30 start over here in Melbourne. So we'll be definitely watching that. And then the next corker of the game, which I'm looking forward to, is Man City versus Arsenal. Really, really important game for both teams. I think especially for Man City, they need a victory because they've drawn a couple of games and lost one. They really need to get a victory. And Arsenal, this would be great because this is like a tryout for our Carabao Cup tie. You know what I mean? So
I'll let you watch that one. There's some grass growing in the backyard. I might go and look at that instead.
I'm just interested to see what happens. Last time we played them, I thought it was a pretty good game. When we played them in the FA Cup semi-final, I thought we played really well. I thought it was really exciting footy, and they were very aggressive. And I don't think Pep's going to want to lose to Arteta again. So this will be a really interesting game. And what's good about this I think, especially for Arsenal, is that I think this will really determine the tactics of the Carabao Cup game coming up 3 weeks after that.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it's going to be a really, really important game. I'm loving it. The fact that we're playing cup teams before, when we play them in the Premier League before we play the cup, it's only going to serve us our benefit for this. I really think it's very important. I think for Arsenal, they really need to try and win this cup, the Carabao Cup. I think it's really important. More silverware, man. You're going to need it in this season because EPL, you can't predict what's going to happen. If teams like Liverpool are getting beaten 7-2 and United 6-1, anything can happen. Cup games, very, very important this season, So
any other fixtures coming up before we reach peak Arsenal saturation?
No, this is they're the two main ones for next week. Those two, the week after, from the 17th of October, they are the two big ones. And then I think Arsenal plays Man United soon as well. That'll be really interesting. Let's see if Pochettino is going to be the coach. Because that's the rumours that Man United have already been on the phone to Poch. I don't know how long is going to last. Yep, that's what's going through Sky Sports and everything. So we shall see what's going on.
I'm excited by that prospect.
Yeah, me too. I think you'll get a really good response from the players. So, well, anyways, I reckon that's plenty of information on game week 4. We've talked about a couple of the transfers. I think Rodriguez has been an absolute star in Everton. I think Partey is going to be great for Arsenal. I'm really interested to see how Cavani goes at Man United. I think that's going to be fascinating to see if he wins or flops. It could go either way. Look at what happened. Di Maria
Come on, a proper number 9. They don't have a proper number 9. And don't forget, you keep excluding this, that Mr. Bale, who is probably not going to be injured for a while because he's had a long time out of the game on the sidelines. I think he's fit and raring to go. I can't wait to see him in action for Tottenham. Tottenham are already ripping it up.
You read my mind. That was the next thing I was going to say was Mr. Bale. We'll see how he goes. I think looking on their, I'm going to go down to their signings. I reckon Doherty has been an excellent signing. Hoiberg has been a great signing for them as well. Reguilon is great. They're looking all right. They're getting some squad depth. They're enjoying playing a lot of games of footy.
Doherty and Holborn are the same brother from a different mother, not they?
Yeah.
I keep getting them mixed up. They look like things.
Yeah. But I tell you what, they look the real deal. It's, for me, it's if they can keep injury free. And the reason why I still am a bit suspect with them, not because they're playing poor football, is that they've had to play so many more games than everybody already. You can only last for so long, do you know what I mean, before random results happen. It's the real challenging of the depth of the squad. If they finish top 4 with the amount of games that they've played at the beginning of this year, absolutely, I will be the first one. I hate it. I'll be the first one to say hands up to Tottenham. They deserve to finish top 4. Absolutely, without a doubt, As much as that kills my soul, rip it apart and then vomit. And then
I can't wait to see Tottenham dismantle Arsenal with good football. That's going to be a special broadcast. I'm going to put my money on that today now.
Look, for me, it won't happen at the Emirates. Tottenham don't like playing at the Emirates. But I don't think we like playing at Spurs' home game. So, yes, that could happen at Spurs' home ground. I don't think it will happen at the Emirates. I think we'll do all right there. We have a good record against them. They haven't beaten us there in yonks. I think
it's about time. Liverpool also haven't been beaten by 5 goals for yonks. It's about time. These things change, man.
Well, that they haven't – I don't think they've lost many games at Anfield.
Mourinho, number of league titles? I don't know. Number of Champions League titles, at least a couple. Arteta, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Charity Shield.
Look, mate, I know you like giving me banter, but if I was a coach and I inherited what we had at Arsenal and did what he's just done in 7 or 8 months, I'd be pretty proud. I'd be pretty proud as a coach. That's an impressive effort. I'm telling you this now. I am telling you this right now.
Tell me. Tell us right now, Mr. Neil.
Spurs squad is far better than ours at the moment. Let's be realistic here. They are far better. They have more world-class players in more spots than we do at the moment, except with this transfer market, I think we've started to really fill in some gaps. So finally, for the first time in 7 years, I see our squad slightly getting closer to Spurs. Yet they have done nothing in those 7 years with a much better squad. That's why my faith is more with Arsenal, not because I think we're a better team. We're not. We've done better. We've won more trophies. We've done better in all this stuff. It's true, though.
Okay, but peak Arsenal. You can't keep talking about Arsenal. I mean, my goodness. Paint dry. Oh, look, I wish you the best. I wish you the best.
I think we're going to have an all right season. No, honestly, I do.
You're like someone that says Beethoven's a good composer, but Hummel's really good. And I like to wake up to Hummel every morning and look at his 5-1 progressions and ponder how he managed to do it yet again. So. But
okay.
But good luck. Good luck to you and your Arsenal.
No, but let's be fair dinkum though.
Tottenham.
A really important team. A really good
football.
Team, a really good team has synchronicity between its board, its players, and its supporters. This is the first time I've seen our supporters like this. Liverpool, why are they good? Everything's running like clockwork. Why will Tottenham, if it keeps going the way that it is and they win something, why is that? Because everybody's on board. They're spending money for the first time in a long time. Like they're spending quite a fair bit of money with their transfers. They've moved to a new stadium. They've got a good coach.
I think I just saw Halley's Comet go past. It's not due for another 70, 60 years, has it?
But I'm saying this is the problem with United, though, isn't it? No, let's be honest. There's no harmony anywhere within the players, coach, this, that. There's no harmony, and it really shows on the field.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really, really shows. So very, very interesting to see what will happen. We will definitely do a watch along with the Tottenham Arsenal games. You mark my word, that's going to be fun. Anyways, I think we've spoken a lot about match week 4. It's been phenomenal. Why we love the PM sessions. My good friend Phil speaks his mind. We don't always agree on things, and that's the point. That's why you have it. It's on a breath of fresh footy. Please press the subscribe button. We love being here, and we will probably see you tomorrow evening with the lads, actually. So it'll be Phil and myself and my 2 friends, and we will go through the issues tomorrow of what we think of VAR, the handball, and what we think game week 5 will be like with all of the games, and we'll go through them with the lads. So we look forward to that. I'm Matthew. We have Phil, and we will see you very soon.
Thank you, Mr. Neil. Good night.
Pleasure.